Up and at 'em, everyone, and thank you for joining us right here on Wake Up Worcester on Charter Channel 3. Coming up in this half hour, we're going to tell you a fun and easy way in which you're going to be able to contribute to New England chapter of AMC Cancer Research. That's coming up with Matt LaBar a little bit later on in the program. Also, Noah Bombard from the Eagle Tribune is with us. He was with the president on Tuesday, or he was outside where all the hubbub was as the president did his town hall meeting. And we'll get a full report on that coming up as well. Right now, some local politics. And that means Nick Kotsopoulos from the Telegram and Gazette is here with us. And Nick, thank you for stopping by.
Thank you for having me.
Gary Rosen, the big news of the last week is he drops out of the race, a surprise move, not only pulling out of the mayor's race, but saying he's not going to run for city council. How does this change the dynamic? Who does it help? Who might it hurt? It
helps all the incumbents. Believe me, there was a collective sigh of relief coming out of City Hall Friday when Gary announced that he wasn't running, because with the 6 incumbents seeking re-election, and plus the addition of Joe O'Brien, that created a very, it was like musical chairs. Somebody was going to be left out. And a lot of people are conceding that Joe O'Brien is going to get one of the seats, so that means one of the incumbents was going to lose. Now with Gary out of it, you've got 5 incumbents plus Joe O'Brien for 6 seats. The math works out there.
You know, interesting that, one of the things that I heard was City Councilor Mike Germain had actually talked about getting into the mayor's race. It seemed more because he was worried about, as the last vote getter the last time around, as maybe being the odd man out with Joe O'Brien probably getting a seat. Does this change, a Mike Germain, a Joe Petty jumping into the race?
I think it does. I mean, I think the talk about Mike running for mayor before was because if you run for mayor, you get more exposure. If you just strictly run at large, you sort of fall between the cracks. You don't get the attention. The at-large race doesn't get the attention that the mayor's race will get. So that was a way, and candidates have used that in the past as a way to get the additional exposure.
Now, you've been watching this and following this for a lot of years, Nick. Do we take Gary Rosen at his word that he just suddenly decided, turned to his wife one night and said, you know what, my heart's not in this, I really can't run the campaign that I want to, fire's not in the belly? Or is there something else going on?
I know the conspiracy theorists out there like to throw out there the rumor about that there was some sort of a deal to get Gary to step aside to make it easier for the 5 incumbents and Joe O'Brien to get on the city council. I think I'll take Gary at his word for this. Gary's the type of campaigner. He doesn't have a big campaign organization. Gary's campaign organization is pretty much himself. And he's out there in the street corners day in and day out, holding the sign, waving at people. And it takes a lot of time. And I think if he was going to run for mayor, if he knew he had a chance for mayor, I think he would have stayed in. But I think he realized that the mayor's race, he wasn't going to win that. So does he want to go through all that effort again to get on the city council just for at-large? And I think he said, I'll take him at his word for it, that yes, it was a case of burnout.
All right, handicap this for us. Now, this is going to be a fairly intense campaign. It's really not going to get going until after Labor Day, so it will be something of a sprint. Certainly Connie Lukes, the incumbent mayor, very well known. Kate Toomey, I think very well known from her stint on the school committee and as city councilor. Joe O'Brien, although he won 3 times to a seat on the school committee, I think the least well known, and yet people speak as if he's the man to beat.
It's funny how that works, but you're absolutely right. One thing you can't underestimate is Kate Toomey. Kate has always, she's done well in her 2 city council races. She just finished, I think it was less than 100 votes behind Connie in the at-large race 2 years ago. So Kate quietly goes about to campaigning. It's funny how Joe has come out as almost like the front runner, and I think it's because of his connections with Congressman McGovern and Lieutenant Governor Murray, even though both sort of distance themselves and say that Joe is his own person and he's run by himself before and gotten elected. But the cynics who follow City Hall will say, that you can say that, but the connection is definitely there.
Now, and some people say, I mean, does I don't want to say hatred, but I mean there is something between apparently Jim McGovern, Tim Murray, and Connie Lukes. I mean, does it run that deep that they would go out and try and find their own hand-picked candidate to knock her off?
Well, I think they'll disagree with you. They'll dispute the notion that's a hand-picked candidate. That this is their person. Is there a dislike between the congressman and the lieutenant governor and the mayor? you know, I think I'd be lying if I said otherwise. You know, they won't come out and say it. I mean, they're always cordial to each other in public, but I think privately, you know, it's a different story. And you know, again, they will dispute the notion that this is a handpicked, that Joe O'Brien is a handpicked candidate. I think, you know, Joe O'Brien is running because Joe O'Brien feels that he can add something to the campaign, to bring something to City Hall, and that he's doing it on his own, and he's not being pushed into it by...
And you know what, and he certainly has a terrific resume, and he's a guy who really walks the walk as well as talks the talk when it comes to his civic responsibilities. Almost a disservice, do you think, Nick, the fact that he gets tied in as being this candidate of McGovern and Murray?
I think it is. I think it does a disservice to him. Again, Joe was elected to the school committee, rather, 3 times before. Before there was this real connection between McGovern and Murray. Absolutely, I think it does do a disservice to him. And that could hurt him, too, because people will constantly, you know, put that up there.
Mayor Connie Lukes, your opinion, what does she need to do? What should she be doing to be able to be re-elected? And the conventional wisdom is that if she can keep Kate Toomey and Joe O'Brien in, maybe even get Mike Germain to jump in or somebody else, that helps her.
The thing about Connie is she will always seems to get a certain percentage of the vote, and it's usually like 35 to 40%. She's in that range. The conventional wisdom would be if you have 3 or more candidates that's going to help her. With 3 candidates, though, it's still conceivable that she could get to 35%, but somebody else, whether it be Kate Toomey or Joe O'Brien, could get more and end up winning. So I think that, yes, she wants to keep as many people as she can in the race, but I think she also feels that she's got a record of you know, that she has as mayor that, you know, stands that she's proud of, and I'm sure that she stands by that.
It does seem to me that one of the underlying themes of this election could very well be strong mayor. Joe O'Brien coming out and saying he's really going to devote himself full-time to this job. Kate Toomey has said, hey, listen, I've always felt that we should have a strong mayor. You know, now may or may not be the time, but she's always felt that way. Mayor Connie Lukes, though, says that's not what the charter says. The charter says that, you know, these are the duties and these are the powers that I have.
Yeah. The mayor's office is what the person who holds it makes it. I mean, the charter says it's supposed to be a quote-unquote part-time position, chair the school committee and city council. Some mayors, I mean, Tim Murray, for instance, used it as a soapbox to advocate for things like City Square, Union Station parking garage, and he became very active. Played a high-profile role, and that's because the city manager also allowed it. There were other times, and you know it having covered City Hall before, Hank, that some city managers didn't appreciate. When Jordan Levy was mayor, for instance, Jeff Mulford didn't like it when Jordan took on a high profile. So it's, you know, Tim had this relationship with the manager. He was allowed to do certain things that other mayors weren't allowed to do before. Whether this, you know, translates into something down the road for charter change, we've been through that race time and time again, and it's got to know.